Hi guys, welcome to Parawomen Radio. I'm Amy. Tonight we dive deep into Special Agent Tammy Lee's interrogation of Chris Watts. Did she manage to crack his facade during the polygraph test? What about his controversial "chicks are crazy" remark and her attempt to shift blame into Shanann Watts? Would she have focused would Should she have focused more on Chris himself? As the polygraph results were unveiled, the tension in the room was thick. Had she seen through his lies or did he outsmart her once again? The eyebrow raising "chicks are crazy" comment and the blame game with Shanann
Mr.
left
Watts, why did
everyone
you kill
scratching
your
their
wife
heads.
and 2 children?
Maybe honing in on Chris would have shed more light on this twisted case. This is going to be one for the books. And you're probably wondering who the surprise guest is. Well, I have been asking him to come on for about a month now. I finally wore him down. And here he is, Rob from Deliberately Deadly. And you probably have seen me mention his channel a few times. I know, like, you have we have the same audience by this point. I looked and you have like only about 200 people that I don't have. So so thank you guys for going over and supporting Robert. And Robert, that says something because I mean they like your channel.
Yeah, I've worked really hard on it. I started it back in October, the end of October, and I put a lot of time into it.
Yeah, you do. I can tell your stories, your scripts are really well done. So I enjoyed it, and I know that my audience enjoys it too. And tonight we're going to talk about Agent Tammy Lee and Chris Watts. What do you think about the polygraph test?
Well, I don't know how accurate polygraph tests are. There's all kinds of ways you could fool them. I mean, even a quick Google search, that there's really no way to determine if somebody's lying with a polygraph. All you can do is tell that their heart rate has changed, they're perspiring, getting tense, stuff like that. So
you're right.
Yeah.
And they're not even admissible in court, are they?
Some courts will allow them, some won't.
Before we get into this, you guys, if we could get that algorithm dance party going, get your fingers ready and start clicking that like and heart button. It just helps us dance out into the algorithm party out there. Junie wants to come say hi. Party out there and bring more people back to the party. It's just a free way to help us out, isn't it, Junie? This is the little one that you hear in the background, the little Mickey Mouse voice. That's Junebug. He's a green cheek to say hello, and he's the little voice that you hear in the background. And actually, I just heard from his mom and dad just had a new, I guess they're called clutches, new clutches of green cheeks. Oops. He's got his little thing right there. I didn't see that because I'm on a different page. So Junie is a big brother. Woohoo! Let's look. I see some people are talking over in the chat. Hi, Carolina. She says, Parawoman Radio, I'm watching and listening with the awesome replay crew and also a new subscriber, and I got my green gummies ready. Well, you're actually not in the replay crew. You're in the live crew right now because we're live right now. Rock and roll, leprechauns. I love it. I love it. So yeah, you made it into the live crew this time. So let's talk about Agent Tammy Lee. Who is Agent Tammy Lee? So Tammy Lee is known for her exemplary work in the Watts family murder case. From the early age of 14, Tammy wanted to be in the law enforcement profession after getting inspired by the movie Silence of the Lambs. She joined the Colorado Bureau of Investigation and completed a 10-week polygraph certification in 2013, where she finished at the top of her class. When Tammy was first assigned to the Watts family murder case, she began studying the victims. That was when she developed a connection with Shanann and her kids, which made her determined to see the case till the very end. And so Tammy Lee is also the one that gave the polygraph test. Oh no. The polygraph test. And I think she outsmarted Chris just because, like, a rock could have outsmarted Chris. So I'm not saying she did a great job, but she did outsmart him, in my opinion. Do you think she outsmarted him, Robert?
You know, I don't think Chris Watts had a plan really whenever he started, you know, talking to the police and the reporters and everything. He was just trying to gain as much sympathy, and he hadn't really thought it all through. So in some ways, he's not very smart. So yes, she lured him in and outsmarted him.
But I mean, she probably could. Well, anyway, a rock could have lured him in my opinion. I just think that he's just such a, I don't know. And with her chicks are crazy thing too. I mean, I have seen her say that she regrets feeding Chris that you know, scenario that Shanann was the one that unalived the kids. Also, too, I think investigators, they lie to you all the time. That's why, I mean, I don't I don't think I would go into, after knowing what I know, to any interrogation without a lawyer, right? Because they can just twist it around and yeah.
Well, there is a reason that you know, you can remain silent until your lawyer arrives. You know,
Right?
They don't have to tell you the truth, but you have to tell them the truth, and they'll do anything they can to get you to say what they want to hear.
Right? Yeah, and it worked. It definitely worked. So Agent Tammy Lee played Chris masterfully. Once she confronted him with the fact that he had failed the lie detector test, she offered him a way to maintain the image that she had deduced was so important to him. She asked him if Shanann had done something to the girls. She told him that tricks are crazy. I want to get a mug or something, or I mean, it's just so being a, like, not like a strict feminist or anything, but just like, it's just so like condescending to me that chicks are crazy, and that this was, you know, how she got Chris Watts to confess. Chicks are crazy, man. Agent Lee wasn't malingering or attacking Shanann. She knew that Chris had killed all three of his family members, but she also knew that he wasn't going to confess outright. So she reeled him in like the big stupid fish that he is. Chris first tried to suggest that his failure of the polygraph was due to him lying about having an affair. Law enforcement brushed this admission aside. No question on the polygraph had involved an extramarital affair, and unaliving a-hole. They already knew about his affair with Kessinger. So once backed into the corner, Chris admitted that he had unalived Shanann, but claimed that she had unalived Bella and Cece in a fit of rage after he had told her about his affair. Agent Lee knew he was lying, but pressed on, trying to get him to reveal the location of the bodies, which he did. So at 11 p.m., Shanann's body was unearthed at Survey 319, an Anadarko oil well site where Chris had volunteered to work in the hours after his family's disappearance. At 11:02 p.m., Watts was handcuffed and booked into custody. The next day, Thursday, August 16th, 2018, the bodies of Bella and Cece Watts were recovered from inside the oil tanks. 2 days after the recovery of the bodies of the girls, Agent Tammy Lee was at a hair salon with her own mom and sister, trying to distract herself for a moment. She broke down crying and couldn't stop. She said, "I felt like I knew them. I've been to many homicides of children. This one was different. I felt like I knew what they sounded like. I knew what they looked like. when they played and how they sounded when they giggled. I felt like I was mourning their deaths. And right there, Tammy Lee says what many of us feel when we talk about the case, because there was so much footage on the internet. Are you going to want to go into the other room, or do you want to go in your cage? Because this isn't working. What do you want to do, Junie? They tell me to leave you alone. Leave Junie alone. We'll try it one more time. I feel like we've all felt like we knew them because of all the footage. Do you feel familiar with them because of the footage, Robert?
Yeah. When I think about this, everything that happened with Chris Watts and his family, I have to kind of like somehow like turn off my brain sometimes so that it doesn't like hit me so hard, because I have kids of my own, and I just can't imagine what those children went through, with their father right before they died.
Yes, especially poor Bella. I think Bella had the worst of it. I think Cece had brain damage, I think, from the first attempt. And so I don't think she was quite with it, because he never talks about Cece as much as he talks about Bella.
Yeah, it's I can't imagine what would go through a person's mind. I've been angry at my kids, and then whenever, you get angry, there's like a line you just don't cross.
Mm-hmm.
And this man crossed it, with a vengeance. And
I think that's how all fathers are, right? Not all fathers, but the good fathers would say what you're saying, right? There's a line you don't do, you walk away from your kids. If you're angry, you don't blame the mother for the kids, right? Or the kids for the mother, right?
Right. They're kids. They're not going to be perfect. They're children. They're learning how to be people,
And he's supposed to be teaching them how to be people.
Yep.
That's why I think it's so kind of wrong when you hit kids, because would you hit an adult that was learning something new? No.
Maybe.
So why would but you don't. Right. But you don't. And so why would you hit a child? I don't know. But anyway, Tabby Cat, hello. Thank you so much for the $2 sticker. She is one of our biggest supporters with the stickers. And thank you so much. Hi. So this was Tammy Lee when she successfully completed her 10-week polygraph certificate. This was on the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. Oh, guys, I keep forgetting. Be sure to give this live a thumbs up. It helps us out tremendously. It's just a free way to help me out. And I always forget to say that, or I say it too much. I don't say it enough, and then the next one I say, remember to say it, Amy, and then I don't say it, and then I say it too much. Interesting. She likes this necklace, this green necklace. I have seen quite a few pictures of her in this necklace. Maybe it's her lucky necklace or something. Oh, she's cried more for them than he has. The investigator opens up about the Chris Watts case. Like I was saying, she has done a few interviews, and she's done a conference on the case. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation agent Tammy Lee grew attached to the victims of the Chris Watts case, so much so that she feels she cried more for the slain children than their own father. Watts he killed his family to start a new life with co-worker Nicole Kessinger, with whom he was having an affair. So she has said things like, I cried more than he has. She can relate to Shanann because she is also an Italian. I guess Shanann was part Italian, part Polish. And she says, I can kind of appreciate her attitude. I guess sometimes, Lee said on Criminal Confessions with a smile, I came from a long line of Italian women, so we're very strong, sassy, assertive, and that's how I pictured Shanann. Lee noted it was obvious that she Shanann loved being a mom, that she loved being a wife, and she loved what she did for work. And many people begrudge her for it, but she really liked the Thrive, the Lavelle Thrive. As the case turned tragic with the discovery of the family's bodies, Lee's feelings towards the people at the heart of the case grew even deeper. Lee expressed disgust and internal outrage at Chris throughout the interrogation process, and she grew protective of Shanann when Chris wrongly claimed that she murdered her own children. Furthermore, she detested how Chris disposed of Shanann, who she was pregnant with Watts's unborn son, and the kids' bodies. Bella and Celeste were shoved into oil tanks while Shanann was buried into a shallow grave nearby. I just couldn't believe a father could do something so horrible to his children and to his wife, she admitted. I was completely disgusted. I felt sick. While Lee was affected by the initial grim findings, it was when she conducted the final interview with him in February, along with FBI Special Agent Graham Coder and lead detective for Frederick Police Dave Baumhover, that she really felt the gravity of how the case affected her. And so I thought we would look at some of the polygraph. There will, and if people are interested in this topic, we can do like a part 2 and 3 and 4 and whatever, and watch the other things. Today I thought we would watch a bit of the polygraph, and I also have an interview that she did. Like she went back to even after Chris was sentenced, they went to Wisconsin and interviewed him, and she has done other interviews of people in the case, and apparently she interviewed one of Chris's cellmates, and I have that interview, and I thought that would be interesting to listen to as well.
Discussion was that the first sort of plan was to do a polygraph.
And as always, I never read everything in its fullness, and we never watch everything in the entirety. And I put the links to everything we watch and view down in the description so that you can go and watch it yourself. This is for fair use, fair play. I can't show it all. And also, be nice, you. Also, these are all our Robert and I's opinion. This is for educational purposes only. So we encourage you to do your own research.
Off that evening, and probably a very good thing that they didn't do the polygraph, just because they probably would have rushed it, and they also didn't have all the information at their fingertips then that they would have the next morning. So fortunately, they decided to do the polygraph the next day. But just think about that as well. That's also a gamble. Watts has agreed to do the polygraph. You send him home. Well, he could just as well come back and say, well, no, I'm not going to do the polygraph. And that's another aspect with Watts that's kind of weird is, he goes home, has a chance to think about it, and then comes back and does it anyway. I think
exactly. What an idiot. And I'm shocked that nobody thought to tell Chris to get a lawyer. We already talked about this, but his father, Ronnie, didn't even say, hey, son, maybe we should get a lawyer.
I think it was because he was determined to say he was innocent, and, he didn't want to look guilty, probably. So
probably that's a good point.
Not to get a lawyer, because at least in the movies, anytime somebody gets a lawyer, it's like, oh, you must be guilty.
Yeah.
So
I'll be like, sit there and think I'm guilty. You already think I'm guilty, so I'm getting a lawyer, right? I don't know. And you always look at the significant other in these kind of situations, right? Or they say they do.
How long was it before they did this polygraph after he was on the news, asking people to help him find his family? Was it
the next day? The next day.
Yeah. So
help me out in the chat, you guys, but I believe it was the next day. Let me think. Because that day, because he was, because he wore that same shirt 2 days in a row. So it was the next day. Why?
It just makes, more sense that he's still trying to portray himself as innocent. And that's why he hasn't gotten a lawyer.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Like he would think that, nobody had a clue at that point that he was guilty. But once he got up on the porch, everybody knew he was guilty.
Mm-hmm.
That's the worst. One of the worst interviews of pleas for like maybe as bad as Susan Smith's. Please come home with my babies, my babies. Is Susan Smith the one that put her babies into the water?
Oh my God.
Am I saying the right person?
I don't remember the name. I think I remember who you're talking about, but I don't remember their actual name.
I think her name's Susan Smith. They say she's a real player in prison too. Like she plays the girls and the boys. Anyway,
one possible reason why he did was he may have gone home and told the Thayers about it, and the Thayers said, "You should absolutely do a polygraph because you've got nothing to hide. You didn't do anything, so that the polygraph will then show that they've got nothing on you." And so Watts is probably thinking, if I do this test, it can sort of get me off the hook. All I've got to do is pass this test, and then I will be off the hook. Now, ultimately, and this is what they say sort of at the end of the segment, is that Watts didn't only fail the polygraph, but he failed it spectacularly. He got like a -18 score, where a +2 is being truthful. And they basically said, law enforcement said, as soon as they saw that, they sort of felt like they had their man. So Watts basically shot himself in the foot more than in any other way by taking the polygraph test. I mean, besides committing the crime. So what's interesting is when Chris Watts left for the evening, left the police station, went to the Thayers, one can imagine him sleeping. Perhaps possible reason why he did was he may have gone home and told the Thayers about it, and the Thayers said, "You should absolutely do a polygraph because you've got nothing to hide. You didn't do anything, so that the polygraph will then show that there's drifting in and out of sleep." But a whole army of people were mobilizing, and they weren't sleeping. They were going through his home, top to bottom, the upstairs bedrooms, the main level, the basement. At the same time, they were going through his browser history of his computer and also his phone. And what Agent Tammy Lee says, and this is around about 26 minutes, she says what they learned from that analysis, and I think she's referring to the digital analysis, because it is mentioned a couple of times in this documentary that they found no evidence in the home. I mean, they found no really compelling forensic evidence. I would dispute that a little bit and say, well, the sheets in the trash and what is on them certainly, I think, qualifies as evidence, and certainly somewhat sinister evidence. But I think what they're really getting at is the significant evidence was of a digital nature. And so while Chris was sleeping, they were getting this information. Now,
isn't that something? While Chris was sleeping, everybody was up looking and trying to find the kids while Chris was sleeping and talking to his girlfriend. Yeah, that neither can remember that 111-minute conversation.
I think that by itself makes him look guilty without a lie detector test.
Yeah, and that makes me like not be able to rule out Kessinger. I'm like at like 99% sure she didn't do it, but then there's these like red flags that it's like, what the heck? Like the pinging and this conversation that you don't remember, and the deleting of all the evidence, and like I don't know. If somebody was missing, as much as I wouldn't want everyone to, like, if my phone could help find those people, as much as I don't want, the world to see what's on my phone, I would hand it over in its entirety. Would you?
Yeah. Well, the thing, I also kind of suspect Kessinger had something to do with it. And for me, the big thing was, why were the children, carried up those stairs and dumped into the oil tanker, and then the wife was buried in a shallow grave? It kind of suggests to me that maybe it wasn't Chris who carried them up there, because he looks like a pretty, big guy, and he should have been able to carry the wife up there too. And
yeah. But he also didn't have he had very little time to do everything that he supposedly did. I would love to go over that timeline someday, but yeah, the oil site is just such a, I don't know how to say how I feel about it. I haven't really dug too deep into it, because I feel like that's the site that a lot of bad stuff went down, and it just, I don't know.
Yeah, it makes sense that he took him there since he worked there, but it doesn't make sense how he, put the wife in a shallow grave. That doesn't make sense to me.
And that NK made him promise that he went to that oil site that day. That's weird too. But yeah. Okay, so going on, let's watch a little bit of the interrogation. This is just 24 minutes of it. It's like the meat and potatoes of it.
I'm gonna find them, right? I need your help. When we find the guy who took him, what do you think we should do?
This is what is known as a behavior-provoking question. An innocent person will usually give what is known as a draconian response. They will immediately respond with the harshest sentence possible for the crime they are falsely being accused of committing. A deceptive individual will often give an equivocating response. This means that they will fragmentize and divert from the question to a certain degree, as a means to avoid responding to the query in its entirety.
You're going to come home safe, correct? When you find the guy. When we find the guy, you're going to come home. Life in prison would be that's what I would think.
I got to slow it back down, because Chris is one of those people that I can't understand very well. He's kind of like his words run into each other, maybe like a mumbler type person, but I have a hard time understanding him, and his dad too. His dad's worse than he is.
What if he hurt them? I'm not sure if that penalty is even used. Is it used in college?
They will ask people that often to get their response. They say most people would be throw the book at them, the worst that's possible. But if you're guilty, they'll say I don't know, tell them no, hit them on the hand. I don't know. Have you heard that?
I haven't, not exactly, but I am familiar with these interrogation techniques and how they're used, and what they're looking for in these responses. Because this guy has just murdered somebody. He hasn't admitted it, but he can't block out those memories no matter what he tries to do. He might be able to put it aside and pretend to be normal, most of the time. But when these people put those images of some of their children being hurt, it immediately goes to what he did, and that's why he's stumbling around on his words, and he doesn't know what to say, because he's trying to bury that so he can pretend to be normal again.
Mm-hmm. Oh. That's a good point, that they're trying to evoke the emotions, because if the person hadn't done it, all that wouldn't have popped up into their head. They would just be like a blank of where are they type deal. That's a good point.
Colorado, I'm not sure what is the death penalty. Okay. If these kids are not alive, there's nothing you could do to cope with that, to make me cope with that, if those kids are not okay. Okay, can we keep talking about some complicated?
We're going to fast forward it to Tammy Lee.
Uncomfortable? No, that's okay. You've done it very good. Down.
And also the way that he treated Chris like he was his dog or something. You've done a very good job, son. A very good job, Chris.
Positive reinforcement goes a long way.
Yeah,
even
I know.
In an interrogation.
I am
get them to relax and feel comfortable with you, so that they'll say what they wouldn't normally say.
That's true. I was watching the Sarah Boone interrogation, and somebody was saying where they went wrong, the interrogator was at a certain point in it. She just couldn't even hide that she doesn't like her. She couldn't hide that she doesn't like her. She just gave up trying to hide it. And she didn't really have to, because that one was a slam dunk.
Polygraph? Sure. I appreciate you coming in tonight. All right, good. I'm gonna find them, right? I need your help. When we find the guy who took him, what do you think we should do?
This is what is known as a behavior-provoking question. An innocent person will usually give what is known as a draconian response. They will immediately respond with the harshest sentence possible for the crime they are falsely being accused of committing. A deceptive individual will often give an equivocating response. This means that they will fragmentize and divert from the question to a certain degree, as a means to avoid responding to the query in its entirety.
You're gonna come home safe, correct? When you find the guy. When we find the guy, you're gonna come home. Life in prison would be that's what I would think.
I gotta slow it back down because Chris is one of those people that I can't understand very well. He's kind of like his words run into each other, maybe like a mumbler type person, but I have a hard time understanding him and his dad.
This is Tammy. Did you meet Tammy yesterday? No, okay. No, I always Tammy.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
So on this?
Yep, I know. I'll explain what that is here in a little bit, but you don't have to worry. It's not on or anything right now. It's not gonna buzz you or anything. Obviously, you're probably nervous about taking today's test. Honestly,
I also feel like I must say this. What an unfortunate sweater she wore that day. I bet she regrets wearing that. That happens to me. Like my best lies are things that I just look so jacked up that why?
I don't see a problem with the sweater, to be honest. It looks like
you don't?
No, but I'm not into fashion that much, though. But it just looks like something.
Sorry, it just looks like what?
Just like just a normal shirt that somebody would wear to, work in a profession like this.
Yeah.
Business casual.
Well, it's just, I guess, fashion-wise, those stripes make you look larger than you actually are. And just as a feminine, maybe perspective, or no, I'm not going to even put that on us females, as people that, anybody that's body conscious or even fashion, fashion forward, fashion-wise, always trying to, get that right look, because I think, like I always say, like the accessories, the shoes, stuff like that makes the outfit. So anyway,
if you weren't nervous about coming in here to take a polygraph, even if people are like, I don't have anything to hide, it is nerve-wracking. And I have taken tons of polygraphs. Obviously, in my training, I went to 10 weeks for training. I've been a polygrapher for about 5 years. I went to the best school in the country. So I want you to have confidence in the fact that if you had nothing to do with this disappearance, like we're going to find that out today. Okay. I have the best training that they offer in the United States. We use the most validated testing. That's the way I'm going to ask you the questions. So believe me, if you had nothing to do with this, I will be able to show them that today.
This is psychological pressure disguised as reassurance. It's not a routine procedure during the pre-test phase of a polygraph exam, yet this technique will be used when the suspect's guilt is almost conclusive. Polygraphs are not a foolproof system, and they can be beaten, but with a heightened state of anxiety, it becomes considerably more challenging and unlikely. On this occasion, the polygrapher distinctly applies this technique for maximal effect.
There's actually only 2 ways you can fail a polygraph, okay? So the first way would be if you fail to follow my instructions. I'm going to give you a lot of instructions today about how to sit still, how to answer questions, things like that. So if you fail to follow those instructions, you will not pass today's test, okay? The second way would be if you choose to lie to me today. If you did have something to do with their disappearance, it would be really stupid for you to come in and take a polygraph today, right? Like, it would be really dumb. Like, you should not be here right now sitting in this chair if you had anything to do with Shanann and that little girl's disappearance, okay?
I think it's important to...
I'm sorry, what?
I think it's important to remember that there's no standardization for these polygraph tests. She said she took a 10-week course to do it, to learn how to do it, but they're all interpreted, and there's no actual yes or no answer for any of these things. And that's why there's arguments against using polygraph tests. There's just a lack of scientific consensus on the reliability.
Yeah, and it almost seems like, and if you refuse to do it, then you look guilty. And if you fail it, obviously you look guilty, even though maybe you were on some medication or you were super nervous or.
I'm surprised he hadn't watched any movies that have polygraphs in there that always talk about how to cheat a polygraph test. I can think of at least one movie that says, hey, you got to clench your butt cheek so that you can pass the polygraph test. That's a way to cheat it. And there's other ways. I mean, there's because all it does is check your heart rate and your blood pressure. And
yeah, I've heard that people that take
if you listen to their question, but you answer a different question in your head before you answer the question, you'll be less nervous about it and it won't trigger anything. But they're not very
surprised
accurate.
he didn't. I'm surprised he didn't Google it or something. But
well, the thing is, she's also saying, if you don't take this, you're going to look guilty. and he's trying to make himself look innocent, and he has been this whole time, and that's why he doesn't have a lawyer also. So she did manipulate him into taking this, but you know, he should have got a lawyer, and he might not be in jail if he'd got a lawyer.
Yeah,
you know,
who knows
he might
where
not have admitted anything. We might never know what really ever happened to them.
we would have probably gotten more answers at least if he had, like, you know, hadn't admitted it right away like he did.
First from there, like in 2011, I proposed to her over in Ocean Isle Beach. And as she was sitting there crying with a little picture notice, and she recorded it. It was an amazing day just to see that. And then she left. I was there, like she had a midwife for this one, so like they actually had me like, oh, you can stand here and like, you know, catch her, and like, but Celeste came out like so fast that like I barely had a chance to go like this, and they moved me out of the way. She just like came out.
The polygrapher will also obtain the examinee's version of the facts regarding the specific issues under investigation.
I was just hoping that I would get that knocked on the.
Why would she be asking him stuff about like the births of the children just to get him relaxed?
Yeah, she wants him to talk, and I think that's what every interrogator wants. The more you talk, the more you're gonna keep talking, even if it's not about like anything specific that they want the answers to. They just want you to talk so that you'll keep talking. But what I'm wondering right now, she's laughing. You know, she's laughing and talking to him, joking around, but she's got to have this nagging feeling in her gut that this guy's a murderer. And, you know, she's also faking her outward appearance too, pretending to, you know, be comfortable in the same room with this guy.
Well, I mean, even when they went up to see him at Dodge, or where'd they go? At was it Dodge Correctional that they went? And they acted all casual and whatever there too. So they must be used to doing that.
I think it's part of her job to keep that facade going. But, you know, I can kind of imagine what she's probably feeling underneath that. And she can't be that comfortable, you know, talking about this stuff.
Well, I'm an ex-social worker. And so, yeah, you have to, like, you know, sitting there and talking to people about uncomfortable things and trying to make them think you're not judging them for it. It's I guess a bit of acting, isn't it? Yeah. Although I think that's where I got really good at not judging people, just seeing people at their worst, just doing the best that they could, and, you know, just understanding that. It would have been better for so many if he had just had the courage to get a divorce.
Right. That's the that's like his big mistake. Why didn't he just do that? Like, what did he gain by nothing? He gained nothing.
Yeah. And I'm just shocked that he thought he was smart enough to pull that off. I think very few people are smart enough to pull off a murder.
Actually, I mean, her phone, they have her phone. Like, hopefully, maybe it's a number I don't know. Hopefully, it's like, you know, like a burner phone or some kind of like phone she bought, and she could just text me and call me like, hey, I'm okay. Something, or just get a knock on the door, and then the kids just run in. I miss like the kids like sitting at the dinner table and like having to tell them to eat their dinner, and like I miss them throwing the chicken nuggets at me. Like I just want to find them. I want them to come home safe. Like wherever they are, I hope they are safe. And I really hope they can just come home. It makes me feel like, all right, maybe somebody has her that's not keeping her safe, or something terrible has happened. And that's the nightmare.
That's the nightmare, huh, Chris?
Somebody hurt them.
Chris recounts a brief summary of the events and states multiple vague possibilities for his family's disappearance. The polygrapher then starts to elect specific timelines for Chris to give his account on.
You said the next thing you know is her getting into bed with you. Is that right?
I could not felt her get in bed. We didn't say anything because I just kind of felt it.
Okay. Do you know if she was on her phone or like how any of that works?
I don't think she was on her phone.
Was she mad at all?
I mean, crying like she was, crying like I was. I mean, she was upset, but I mean, it comes with that kind of conversation.
In the next,
the weapon, like gun or knife. I mean, you could.
You could smother someone. You could strangle someone.
Hang someone. Yeah, you can. All that kind of things. I mean, it's hard to even think about that kind of stuff right now.
Mm-hmm. You could strangle someone, you could drown someone,
you
could shock someone to death, you could burn someone alive. What are the ways?
And if Chris's family was truly missing, like, and he had nothing to do with it, these are horrible things to say to try to get somebody to think of what could be wrong with their, how their family was harmed.
I think just based off what I've seen here, even if I didn't know the outcome, I would assume he's lying also. Just the way he's talking, and it's definitely odd. I know what I would feel like as a father if my kids were missing and I didn't know where they were. I would be like pacing and panicking, and probably thinking the worst thing, not just, casually talking about strangulation and, burning people to death with somebody.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I would be like, what do you mean? How you think that happened to them? I would be like, it would be just too much for me to even have that conversation.
I agree. I don't think I could have it either. I would be in panic mode right then when they start talking about that.
Like, do you know something that, like, did something happen, like that kind of.
But there's just something off about this interview and the way he's talking about everything. Didn't he like suspect that they just left at the beginning? Like, went to Shanann's parents' house or something. Like, I can't remember.
No, he said that they left on a play date on the first day of school. Like, instead of going to school, they went to a play date, but he didn't know where. She said she was going on a play date, but she didn't say where.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense either, and that's probably why he's sitting in this room with a lie detector machine about to test him.
Yeah, with one way out of the house, and because like the back door you have to, you can't lock it from the outside. So with one way out of the house, it's weird.
As far as like lure him into a trap, I guess.
What do you mean? We're going to know which questions these are, and they're going to be easy to answer. They're all going to start with before 2018.
Now she's going to get into the questions.
The directed lie test has 3 types of questions, known truth questions. These are easy questions to answer, such as, are you sitting down? Or are you wearing shoes? They serve 2 purposes. The first purpose is to provide a baseline reading for when the subject is telling the truth, and should elicit very little bodily responses. The second purpose is to disconnect the examinee's thought patterns between each question as a means for resetting their cerebration for a more accurate reading. Control questions. These are what the polygrapher just explained to Chris. Whenever she says, before 2018, at the start of a question, Chris will know he is purposely supposed to lie. Each of these questions are deliberately constructed that all answers will be responded with no. Relevant questions. These relate specifically to the crime being investigated, and the examinee will know that they are supposed to respond truthfully. A guilty subject will show a much stronger reaction to the relevant questions than to the control questions, even though they will be lying on both of them. This is due to the immediate threat posed by the relevant questions.
So I'm going to say, before 2018, did you ever lose your temper with someone you cared about? And you're going to say, no, because you're telling a lie. Awesome. The test is about to begin. Please remain still. Did you write the number 1?
No.
Did you write the number 3?
No.
Did you write the number 5?
No.
This portion of the test is complete. Please remain still. I take the instrument out of operation. You can relax. How do you feel?
It's also like all this questioning, all this talking for like a 2-second test,
Yeah, I don't think that these tests are very accurate because, they only check your blood pressure, your heart rate, and if you're sweating, and they only suspect that those things happen when you lie. They can't even prove it that your heart rate goes up or your pulse goes up or you start sweating when you actually lie. It's all it does is give them a way to get him to admit his guilt, really, in my opinion.
Yeah, probably.
This is the last time the polygrapher will have any correspondence with Chris before the real test begins. She gives him an initial compliment in a reassuring tone.
You did great. You remembered to lie and everything. That was awesome.
This momentary boost in his confidence is then abruptly ripped away as he receives the following information.
So you obviously are a really bad liar. Have people told you that before? Like, the second you tell a lie, like they can tell, like, on your face that.
I think a lot of it is like psychological tactics too.
Yeah, I mean, has anybody said if he's like actually a sociopath or something, or just because if he is, he's not very good at lying, And
yeah, a lot of people have speculated what he is, but there has not been any doctor that has actually treated him or evaluated him. Nobody's come out to say anything, so I can't say. I having a degree in psych social, I won't even say what I can say what I suspect he has, but And, narcissist gets thrown around, sociopath gets thrown around. So all those words.
I mean, a sociopath basically just doesn't regret, right? That's their big thing. They don't have that consciousness. It doesn't, I guess, necessarily mean you're going to be good at portraying a lie. So maybe he is. I don't know. I've wondered this a lot. Like, it helps me to understand things when I understand,
the diagnosis.
Yeah, I do. I just want to know. The more I know, then the better I can make sense of things and, help myself watch out for those things. If his kids went to a play date, they could have been playing with my kids. I mean, this guy looks just like an average guy from the suburbs,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he dresses like one. He looks like one. He doesn't look scary like some serial killers out there, other murderers. He just looks like a regular guy.
I think that's why they called him the guy next door, the American Family or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm so interested in this case particularly, is because he just seems so normal in pictures anyway. And I've got a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they go on play dates all the time.
Yeah.
I just hope that their friend's dad isn't like this guy's.
That's all you can do is hope, right? Jeez.
This is Tammy. Did you meet Tammy yesterday? No, that's good. I always Tammy.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
So on this?
Yep, I know. I'll explain what that is here in a little bit, but you don't have to worry. It's not on or anything right now. It's not gonna buzz you or anything. Obviously, you're probably nervous about taking today's test. Honestly,
I also feel like I must say this. What an unfortunate sweater she wore that day. I bet she regrets wearing that. That happens to me. Like, my best lies are things that I just look so jacked up that why?
I don't see a problem with the sweater, to be honest. It looks like
you don't?
No, but I'm not into fashion that much, so. But it just looks like something.
Sorry, it just looks like what?
Just like just a normal shirt that somebody would wear to, work in a profession like this.
Yeah.
Business casual.
Well, it's just, I guess, fashion-wise, those stripes make you look larger than you actually are. And just as a feminine maybe perspective, or no, I'm not going to even put that on us females, as people that, anybody that's body conscious or even fashion, fashion forward, fashion-wise, always trying to, get that right look. Because I think, like I always say, like the accessories, the shoes, stuff like that makes the outfit. So anyway,
if you weren't nervous about coming in here to take a polygraph, even if people are like, I don't have anything to hide, it is nerve-wracking. And I have taken tons of polygraphs. Obviously, in my training, I went to 10 weeks for training. I've been a polygrapher for about 5 years. I went to the best school in the country. So I want you to have confidence in the fact that if you had nothing to do with this disappearance, like, we're going to find that out today. Okay. I have the best training that they offer in the United States. We use the most validated testing. That's the way I'm going to ask you the questions. So believe me, if you had nothing to do with this, I will be able to show them that today.
This is psychological pressure disguised as reassurance. It's not a routine procedure during the pre-test phase of a polygraph exam, yet this technique will be used when the suspect's guilt is almost conclusive. Polygraphs are not a foolproof system, and they can be beaten, but with a heightened state of anxiety, it becomes considerably more challenging and unlikely. On this occasion, the polygrapher distinctly applies this technique for maximal effect.
There's actually only 2 ways you can fail a polygraph, okay? The first way would be if you fail to follow my instructions. I'm going to give you a lot of instructions today about how to sit still, how to answer questions, things like that. So if you fail to follow those instructions, you will not pass today's test, okay? The second way would be if you choose to lie to me today. If you did have something to do with their disappearance, it would be really stupid for you to come in and take a polygraph today, right? Like, it would be really dumb. Like, you should not be here right now sitting in this chair if you had anything to do with Shanann and the little girl's disappearance, okay?
I think it's important to...
I'm sorry, what?
I think it's important to remember that there's no standardization for these polygraph tests. She said she took a 10-week course to do it, to learn how to do it, but they're all interpreted, and there's no actual, like, yes or no answer for any of these things. And that's why there's arguments against using polygraph tests. There's just a lack of scientific consensus on the reliability.
Yeah, and it almost seems like, and if you refuse to do it, then, you look guilty. And if you fail it, obviously you look guilty, even though, like, maybe you were on some medication or you were super nervous or,
I'm surprised he hadn't watched any movies that have polygraphs in there that always talk about, how to cheat a polygraph test. I can think of at least one, like, movie that, says, hey, you got to like clench your butt cheek so that, you can pass the polygraph test. That's a way to cheat it. And there's other ways. I mean, there's, because all it does is check your heart rate and your blood pressure. And
Yeah, I've heard that people that take.
If you listen.
So going on, Tammy Lee talks about Chris Watts' hand signals during interrogation led agents to believe he had maybe put his hands around her throat. And Chris Watts committed a heinous crime against his family, unaliving both his pregnant wife and their children. But a clip has resurfaced showing how Chris's body language during his interrogation interview led an agent to believe he had put his hands around his wife's neck. The tale of the despicable acts, which happened back in August of 2018, were turned into a Netflix documentary. Oh yeah, that's what it was. American Murder, The Family Next Door. He's like the guy next door. Uses raw firsthand footage of police interviews. A Reddit user shared a clip of Agent Tammy Lee on the Chris Watts subreddit, who said that Watts made a lot of movements towards his neck area during the interrogation. The footage shows Tammy, who was part of the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, saying Chris, while he was talking to Special Agent Coder, made a lot of movements towards his neck area. The footage then shows a series of clips of Chris moving his hands towards his neck, resting his left arm against the left side of his throat in various different positions while answering the questions of the special agent. Tammy continues by adding, Special Agent Coder actually came out of the room and said he may have put his hands around her neck. The documentary sparked outrage among viewers after they watched in disbelief as Chris blatantly lied about his wife taking off with the kids when it was him who, in fact, ended their lives. Chris, an oil field operator, did the unthinkable. Not only did he unalive Shanann, who was pregnant with his third baby at the time, but he also smothered their two children, Bella, age 4, and Celeste, age 3. Most shocking of all, Chris decided to hide the two young bodies in an oil tank in the middle of the field. And I wanted to point this out because I saw that on Watts the Obsession, she takes that and she points out what Tammy Lee said, but also then goes to point out that Miss NK does a lot of hand movements too.
If she knows Shanann's name. Now, this shady empanada has managed to get through hours of interview without saying Shanann's name. Agent Colback has to ask her again, specifically, can you say her name? The first time she says Shanann's name, look at what she does with her hands.
Let's go back to North Carolina.
Okay.
He went to North Carolina and he was trying to rehab his marriage with his wife.
He said.
Do you know her name at this point?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you okay saying her name?
It's Shanann.
All right.
Look at those hands.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you okay saying her name?
It's Shanann.
All right. And
it's Shanann.
All right.
Sorry, I just needed to take a detour down that road to show you that I thought that was so interesting. Hold on. I thought that was so interesting.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of studies on body language, and I think that's you can read a person better just off their body language than you can through a lie detector test. And whenever I watch those interviews with her talking, like she's very good at saying what needs to be said instead of I think she's more involved than anybody even knows, and will probably never know. She at least knew about it, and is what I think at the very least.
So
if she knows Shanann's name. Now, this shady empanada has managed to get through hours of interview without saying Shanann's name. Agent Colback has to ask her again, specifically, can you say her name? The first time she says Shanann's name, look at what she does with her hands.
Let's go back.
You guys, if you could give this live a thumbs up, helps us go out onto the algorithm party out there, bring more people back to the party. It's just a free way to help my channel out, and it's really appreciated. And if you want to go a little extra, we also do super chat, super stickers, and we also are on Venmo and PayPal at parawomenradio@gmail.com. But let's just kind of wrap it up with looking at what Tammy Lee is doing now. And she did speak last year at Chris Watts Investigators Speak at Family Violence Prevention Conference in Aberdeen. I tried to see if I could find like the presentation, but I couldn't. Hold on, baby.
I don't smoke in front of the family. I hide it because I'm ashamed.
Not letting me fast forward.
Not only do you hide it from yourself, but you hide it from the people that love you. I'm going to kick this.
5:30. Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Allen.
I'm Sam Wright. In 2020, Netflix released a documentary called American Murder, The Family Next Door. It examines the shocking murder of Shannon Watts and her 2 children.
The lead investigators of the case stopped at a conference in Aberdeen today to discuss how family violence can happen anywhere, even in smaller towns. Sarah Parkin with that story from our Aberdeen newsroom.
The 2022 Northeast South Dakota Family Violence Prevention Conference started today here at the Dakota Event Center in Aberdeen, and speakers included investigators from the 2018 Chris Watts case. FBI Special Agent Graham Coder and Colorado Bureau of Investigation Field Agent Tammy Lee, who could not appear on film, spoke to the 200 attendees of the conference about their investigation that led to the arrest of Christopher Watts, who murdered his pregnant wife and 2 children. The murders occurred in Frederick, Colorado, which has a population half the size of Aberdeen's.
And what we want people to take away is that we do have family violence in our communities. And we want agencies to be aware of that and how we can work together and try to combat that.
Watts had no history of violence before the murders, and conference organizers say there's a lesson to be learned from that.
The Chris Watts case shows that we aren't dealing with somebody we can clearly identify as an abuser. These individuals are smart, they know how to manipulate, and they know how to get away with it. And so we have to train agencies on how to be able to read between the lines.
Attendees like Joni Larson say they learned from the investigators how to spot signs of family violence that might not be obvious.
Because I'm working with survivors and perpetrators, and being able to pick up on some of the nuances and learning that there is no socioeconomic status that says this is going to happen. It can happen to anybody.
The Family Violence Prevention Conference continues tomorrow, and speakers include detectives, attorneys, therapists, and survivors. In Aberdeen, Sarah Parkin, Dakota News Now.
It actually sounds like a pretty cool conference.
Yeah.
And so to wrap it up, where is Tammy Lee now? With Chris Watts in prison, Tammy Lee revealed how much the case affected her. She stated that she felt disgusted at how Chris spoke about his family and was disturbed when Chris tried to accuse Shanann of unaliving the kids. She also mentioned that the case impacted her life as a mother and recounted how after the final interview, she came back home and broke down in tears. When Chris finally confessed to the murders and led to the investigators to the bodies, Tammy revealed that she felt sick and disgusted at the sight of the unalived bodies. She even spoke about how she believes that the murders were an evil act, much more horrible than can ever be imagined. I agree with that. While talking about Chris's cruelty and evilness, Tammy said, you know, he didn't even cry for them. Like, I've cried more for them than he has. Who does that? So, what do you think? Tried to see if I could find like the presentation, but I couldn't. Hold on, baby.
I don't smoke in front of the family. I hide it because I'm ashamed.
Not letting me fast forward.
Not only do you hide it from yourself, but you hide it from the people that love you. I'm going to kick this.
5:30. Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Allen.
I'm Sam Wright. In 2020, Netflix released a documentary called American Murder, The Family Next Door. It examines the shocking murder of Shannon Watts and her 2 children.
The lead investigators of the case stopped at a conference in Aberdeen today to discuss how family violence can happen anywhere, even in smaller towns. Sarah Parkin with that story from our Aberdeen newsroom.
The 2022 Northeast South Dakota Family Violence Prevention Conference started today here at the Dakota Event Center in Aberdeen, and speakers included investigators from the 2018 Chris Watts case.
Secondary trauma is going to happen, especially for anybody who's involved in the case, that they had to hear all the, like we, as the public, hear a lot of the details, but we don't hear all of the details because there's probably evidence that was, not, made public, and, they had to spend all this time talking with those people, and, I don't know. I kind of feel sorry for anybody that had to actually sit there and listen to it firsthand, especially in the beginning.
I think they did report that some of the responding officer, he had to retire because he had severe post-traumatic. The one that was walking around the house with him in the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to think that you can suffer traumatic stress from, hearing somebody else's, story, but it really does happen. It's a real thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Robert, let's talk a little bit about your channel. What do you see for it? What do you want for the future for it?
With Deliberately Deadly, I don't know, I know there's a lot of true crime on TV, on all the streaming services, and, everybody seems to like it. And I just thought, it'd be interesting, to, have my own channel, write about these things, put in my own little thoughts on, the topic or whatever. But I've been struggling to get my channel monetized. I have another channel, Dimension Beyond the Veil. It's a supernatural kind of channel. That one's monetized, but after Halloween, the views kind of died down. But I enjoy making the videos, or I enjoy writing the script, and the videos I'm learning how to do. So I'm still kind of an amateur.
I'm trying to pull up the one Beyond the Veil, but I'm not seeing it.
Try searching at Phantom Seeker with 2 R's at the end. And I'm in the process of publishing a video for that channel, and my new videos about the afterlife. I was it's kind of weird. I was just at the chiropractor, and then one of the nurses there was talking to me about shamans and all this stuff, and how one of her parents had passed away, and it just got me thinking about the afterlife. So I got a whole 20-minute video that I'm working on getting posted today. But mostly it's ghost stories that, historical, ghost sites and stuff like that. Nothing too fancy, but it's more just for fun for me. There's a couple in there that are just complete fiction, where I try to just write my own ghost story and see if anybody would, be interested in that. But I'm not very good at animation. All those cartoony art stuff in my videos is from what is it? Lovi AI. LOVO AI.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So they're AI generated.
Yeah. I have some artistic skills, but I can't make cartoons, and I can't, I don't have time anyway to draw stuff like that.
Well, you're really good at storytelling, and so that's going to carry you a long ways while you learn the editing.
Yeah, it's tricky, especially because I don't know the do's and don'ts, and Deliberately Deadly. I finally had enough subscribers and stuff, and they declined to monetize. Hopefully I get that fixed. I changed all my thumbnails because I had bloody handprints, bloody thumbprints on most of the thumbnails, and I'm guessing that is frowned upon.
See, that's the thing about YouTube. They won't tell you what it is. They'll just.
I actually called them and talked to them, and they were like, "Yeah, let me put you on hold for 5 or 10 minutes, and I'll go find out what the problem is." And when they came back, they told me that I could reapply in a month, and that was all they could tell me. They couldn't tell me anything else.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm going to reapply and see if they change their mind. But
yeah, I hope they do, because I've struggled with the monetization too. I got monetized, then they took it away, then I got it again, and then they took it away, and now I have it again. But this last time I went through and I cut everything that I thought might be doing it. I even deleted my most popular video.
Yeah, so I went through my videos and I've blurred out some images. I mean, I hope that's enough. I never had anything like everything that I found that was gory kind of images were from newspaper clippings. So I didn't think it would be that bad, but maybe YouTube does. So I've been going through my more recent videos and trying to blur out those images and see if that helps. But I really don't want to delete everything.
Yeah, I know. I understand. And if you guys like the paranormal, head over to Robert's channel. I have it right up there. And I will also link all of his channels down in the description. So thanks for being on, Robert.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun.
It was. I hope that you enjoyed it and that you want to do more of it.
Yeah, I'll be open to that.
Okay, awesome then. All right, so I'll see you next time. Is there anything else you wanted to mention before you go?
Nope. I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Bye, Robert.
Bye.
Okay, so I hope you guys will head over to his channel. He's a good guy, and he's a good storyteller, and we like to support people here. So, and speaking of support, if you want to become a member here, I release most of my videos early to the members. I also have a few videos I've created. I give thanks. Thank you to Miss Murda and Sherry P for being members. I love you. I love all of you guys, actually. And that's all I have. So if you want to support me, please consider becoming a subscriber. I think it's like $3.99 or $2.99. I don't remember how much it is, but it's not that much. But every little bit helps me. I'm trying to get a new mic set up because I'm still sitting here holding it. So a mic set up, and I also need some new earbuds. But if you guys can just give me a like, a heart, a thumbs up. We're coming to you today from X and YouTube. Hi, guys. And hi to everybody in the replay crew. And so from my heart to your heart, I love you guys. And I'm so grateful for you. And I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.